Yes, I'm here. Good
Okay.
morning.
I didn't see a text from Deb, but I'm not sure. Do you know how long she'd be running late?
I just spoke with Chantel, who's on the Teams meeting now. I think Chantel said she's just running about 10 minutes late. I'm not exactly sure, but Chantel said that we can get started and Chantel can start the introduction on the item for Deb to join. But
Okay.
I don't have a hard time. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Okay, then we will we'll do that. Let's just give just a couple more minutes here.
I just would like to test my mic. Is my mic okay?
Sounds fine to me. Loud and clear.
I just had a bunch of computer problems. I had to pull you out of the docking station and open it differently. Just having problems today. So.
Okay. I show it's 9:04 right now. We'll go one more minute and then we'll get started, and that'll give a little time for us to take care of the first agenda item. So we will wait, get started at 9:05 here in a minute. Okay, good morning. My name is John Von Paris, and I am serving as the chairman for the MDTA Finance Committee meeting this morning. I hereby call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order at 9:05 a.m. In accordance with the live streaming law, this meeting is being conducted via video conference and is being live streamed on the MDTA Finance Committee page. As a reminder, all members of the Finance Committee will have their video active during the entirety of the meeting. To minimize background noise during the call, I would ask that everyone on the line, please mute your phones. Sorry about that. I ask that everyone who is presenting or answering a question to please turn your video and audio on when speaking. When you are done, please turn your video off and put your audio on mute. There are no members of the public, no elected officials, and no media that have pre-registered to comment at today's meeting. At this time, we will begin with today's agenda. And item number 1 on the agenda is the approval of the open meeting minutes from November 9, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved. Member Rosen.
Thank you, Member Rosen. Is there a second?
Member Ardinger, I'll second.
Thank you, Member Ardinger. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are hereby approved. Thank you, members. The second item on the agenda is an update. The independent auditor's report on the fiscal year 2021 financial statements. And Chantel will cover at this point for Deb, who should be here shortly. So we'll see how that goes. But hi, Chantel. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Hi.
Good morning.
Fine.
And then we also have 2 others here. Is that correct? Sean Walker from CLA. Morning, Sean. And is Jatana here, Coleman here?
No, I let her not attend.
Okay. All right. Well, we will get started, and Deb will probably join us some time during this presentation. Would you guess that, Chantel?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So please go ahead with your presentation here and introduction. Or
Certainly. Thank you. The team here at the Authority has been diligently working toward completing the financial statements for the last several months. And you all I'm sure recall that annually the independent auditor provides the results of the financial statements audit to the Finance Committee as well as to the board. So today we are joined by our independent auditor, Clifton Larson Allen, and they're here to update the committee on the results of the annual financial statements audit. As you just mentioned, Member Von Paris, we're joined here today by Mr. Sean Walker, who's the principal in charge of the Authority's audit. And so with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Walker to provide the committee with an overview of the audit.
I'm sorry, I don't really want you to have my calendar. I was going to pull up the presentation here. Slideshow.
Sean, you don't need to pull up the presentation. The board members have it.
Oh, okay, cool. So we should be back to normal then.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. So just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up here is that I am noticing that I'm having some latency. It seems like my voice is coming through, but sometimes the camera gets a little spotty, so I apologize. Something's going on in our internet in our office. So, but to start the presentation on, I'm just going to go straight over agenda. I'll give you an overview of where we are as far as the audit. Do some required communications and consider further considerations. I think first thing on page 3 here, the players. Our team was primarily based on myself and Jatana, which we both were as part of the audit last year. We did bring on a new senior, Josh McLean, as our prior senior resigned into the private sector, doing some accounting work. First, I would like to thank all the staff so far. I mean, obviously, this has been a little bit of a challenging year with change of the tolling operators to TransCore and having to make some estimates along the way. and just working in a second year of COVID has been a different experience as well. But as far as our audit overview, we intend to issue an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements. The areas of emphasis that we've actually focused in on this year are the investments, the capital assets, long-term debt. There's special attention given to revenue this year due to the larger estimate that was made for revenue related to the backlog of tolling charges. And then also the intergovernmental agency relationships that you have with some of the debt refinancing that went on there. And then also just financial reporting in general. As of right now, the financial statements are in the firm's quality control review process. We don't expect to have a change. Usually we don't have that. If there's a change, it's going to be usually pretty minor language or maybe formatting. So we should feel pretty good with the results that we're going to issue on modified opinion. As far as the internal controls, is through this process, we didn't evaluate deficiencies in internal controls that we would classify as material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Obviously, we know that part of an internal control environment, switching the providers and having to come up with that estimate, it wasn't like a breakdown of internal control. It was just a response to a series of circumstances. So we did not feel the need to actually report that there was a controlled design flaw in that. Some of the governing communications, the policies for this year, the accounting policies that are disclosed in the first note of your financial statements are consistent from prior year. There are a number of estimates as auditors that we take a look at. We compare it to normal standards and best practices in the area to the best that we can, and we usually conclude that we do not have an issue with the way that the estimates are being prepared by management. Some of those estimates are the allowance on your receivables. This year, the unbilled tolling revenue, pollution remediation liabilities, capital asset depreciation, and also your pension liabilities. I listed here two difficulties in the process here, and this is primarily why, if you feel like it's in delay, and I know this is, I think, a month later than normal, is that obviously there's the COVID year 2 impacts. And some people, as part of an audit process, some of the things that we're experiencing, delayed in confirmations because we're getting those from third parties and things that we are trying to get from, a state agency or debt confirmations. They're not coming as fast as they used to because the people aren't working the same. So we got a little bit of delay in some of the confirmations. We have those now. And then also the significant revenue estimate. There was a lot of work that went into calculating that, and we were back and forth on how it was calculated. And so those are some of the reasons that it was a little more challenging this year. Uncorrected misstatements, we don't have any of those that we aren't posting as part of a misstatement that management has identified, and we didn't identify anything and ask them to post something to correct. So we are in good shape when it comes to journal entries and the things there. We did not have any disagreements with management. They've been very good and very responsive. We'll be obtaining a representation from management in the next few days here, of which we will provide you a copy of that letter with our formal communication. And also, we did not consult with any other auditors or accountants on any technical matters, and we did not have any issues that we needed to discuss with management prior to the retention of the audit. Just a couple future considerations to put into play, and it is becoming a more and more concern across our client base, especially working in this newer COVID environment. Is that there's a standard out there for capital lease or leases, which is, and I think I brought this up at our last meeting. is that as part of the new GASB 87, it's called, there's a lease standard out there that basically eliminates the idea of an operating lease. It's moving everything to more of a capital related lease, which means it'll affect your balance sheet, from a standpoint of right use assets or assets that you may be leasing out. And it's the big issue here is that a lot of times, those are hard to identify. I know that management is working through that process currently to those leases to be able. I don't know the total extent and impact is. There's always a little challenge in the standard is that there's a lot of places that people don't even think of that leases exist, and that also includes in what we call hybrid agreements, where you may have a software contractor in which you are buying assets last part of the year, and I know that management is.
Any questions from any members?
This is Member Ardinger. Just to reiterate, and I'm just prefacing this in layman's terms, looking back, your area of emphasis on the financial statements, you looked at the investments, capital assets, the whole list that you have there, but in particular, the revenue and the estimate of collection, and you feel comfortable and that estimate is correct, and therefore you were able to issue a clean opinion.
Correct. I mean, it's prepared in the most reasonable way that I could anticipate. Obviously, given a set of circumstances, you always have to say, how would I shoot this estimate? And it was very disaggregated, which means that, we looked at lanes of traffic and number of riders and, fees collected during that time. I think it's a pretty accurate. The allowance, I think, is reasonable. That's a little more of an unknown. But I think it's a reasonable approach given the history and based on the analysis of the estimate.
Right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Deb, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. We thank CLA for their work and, working through the audit and, extra work was required for receivables, and we appreciate the attention that they paid to it and the careful analysis that they did.
Okay. I echo that. Mr. Walker, thank you very much for being here and for the work that you did on behalf of the MDTA. And Chantel and Deb, thank you. And Chantel and Deb, thank you for your contribution as well. Okay. Any other comments here? And this certainly was an update. So if not, we will move on to the next agenda item. And that would be the TIFIA loan. Alan Garman is here and with an update. Hi, Alan. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. This is an update on the TIFIA loan financing process. The MDTA is seeking a $200 million loan to finance approximately 1/3 of the Nice Bridge project. The financing project began in August of 2019 with our letter of interest submittal. And once that started, we visited USDOT in DC and provided a presentation. We had received a formal invitation to the credit review phase that was received in December of 2019. And after that point, the process was essentially the credit review and the loan terms and negotiation. We had expected that process to take approximately a year. We're well into it, beyond 2 years at this point. We finally received an invitation to submit our application in July of 21. So that was a bit over 2 years. And then The final 3 steps were really considered formalities. The credit review team at the Build America Bureau provided a recommended approval to us in August of 21. And at that point, we were supposed to go to the Credit Council at USDOT. And then the final 2 steps were OMB apportionment funding and USDOT secretary approval. Unfortunately, the Credit Council did not approve the loan. The minutes from that August meeting indicated that the vote was deferred pending further discussions with the project sponsor regarding pedestrian safety questions. We received some questions through the FHWA director, and we responded to those in September. Unfortunately, we've not received any subsequent updates after that, and the loan approval did not go back to the Credit Council for 3 subsequent meetings. So the September, October, and November meetings, it was not on the agenda. So the loan is essentially stalled with the Credit Council. We believe the loan is in jeopardy of not being approved. And that's despite our compliance with all federal guidelines, including the NEPA approval. With the loan closing, once it's approved, or if it's approved, we would lock the financing rate, and the draw on that loan was scheduled. We won't need additional funds until January of 23. So we have essentially another year to work on the loan to try to get it to close. I think that covers most of the details, and I wanted to open it up if Deb or anyone else wanted to add anything or for questions.
Alan, this is Rosen. I have a question. So in regard to their reason for not approving, I understand that they didn't put it back on the agenda, but how do we ultimately come to a resolution on both the pedestrian safety issues and also it noted the subsequent inquiries and demands that they just haven't been responsive to? How do we figure that out? Because it seems like we're doing what we need to do on our end appropriately.
Yeah, I think a couple of points to make is that, you know, the minutes, in my opinion, don't accurately reflect what was subsequently communicated to the MDTA. You know, they initially came back to us and they showed us one of our press releases when our board decided to not, you know, build a separate lane for pedestrians and bicycles. And so we highlighted in that press release that those monies were better spent elsewhere. And one of the projects that was identified was work on I-95. And so they originally suggested that we could get approval for the loan if we put in a covenant within the loan agreement that stated that we would affirmatively do those projects. And then subsequent communications were that it deviated into a demand for us to do bicycle lanes or pedestrian lanes along Route 301, which is a roadway that we don't own and we can't legally pay for work on that roadway. So in the response letter that we sent to the FHWA director back in September, you know, we addressed those issues, you know, what's legally permissible, you know, why we can't do that work. You know, we highlighted that we'd already received, you know, the NEPA approval. You know, the design for the bridge was well known and it's well underway. So we have subsequently drafted another letter because we hadn't received a response to that one. The new letter is drafted to the chair and the vice chair of the Credit Council. And so we hope to send that soon. And I think Deb maybe was going to interject there.
Yeah, so soon as the Credit Council stalled the approval process, Jim Ports and Secretary Slater were engaged immediately by us. And so they have been assisting us and trying, you know, having different conversations. And so that's our primary strategy at this point in time, is to allow the secretary the opportunity to participate and make reach out and allow that to go through its process. Now, from a timing perspective, Alan is correct. We had planned to draw the loan later in this year. The timing, though, we don't have a full year likely to conclude this process. In the next 4 months, probably, we're going to have to make a decision as to whether or not we continue this process or we have to go out on the bond market, because it takes time to prepare for a bond sale. We have our and so a lot, you have to time that right, and you have to look at your other work and what else is going on with other bonds, and we'll figure out how to package things together. But right now we want to use the avenues that the secretary have to see if we can get this back on the credit council's agenda. And Member Rosen, we'll continue to provide updates regarding this matter, to you. And, we, very shortly, if we don't see movement, we will present a forecast to you that does not assume a TIFIA loan.
Thanks, Deb. And you answered my other question as far as how we're going to finance this otherwise. So thank you.
Deb, I wanted to add for the record too, this is Will Pines, Chief Operating Officer, that there also seemed to be some confusion in the discussions about the fact that we are providing cycling accommodations on the Nice Middleton Bridge, that we made considerable investments to that end in excess of $2 million in order to have ITS devices and other equipment there. And I just want to make sure that for anybody listening to this, that they do understand that the new Nice Bridge is being built to be able to accommodate bikes, which is a major consideration in the decision that was reached by the board when this was originally approved. And that doesn't seem to be adequately considered in the discussions that we've had with Federal Highway, nor does it appear that they've fully considered the previous federal approvals that we received during the NEPA process, where we were granted permission by Federal Highway to complete the process that we did. So there's some issues on their side that they're possibly not aware of when they're considering this. Thanks.
The improvements that are being made to accommodate bikes on the Nice Bridge, all of that was documented in the conversations as well as the correspondence that we've had to date with USDOT.
This is Member Ardinger. So Deb and Alan, thank you. I know how much effort you've put into the TIFIA loan. It's rather disappointing, I'm sure. But I did have a question. So we are unable to lock into a rate, we know, if the TIFIA loan comes through. So we're not going to be able to lock in, assuming the thought is that Treasury rates will go up. So we're probably looking at a higher interest rate. Is it that significant of a savings to continue to pursue it, or would we be better served to try to go to the bond market now while the rates are lower? Do we have the time to even do that?
Yeah, I think that's
right now. Alan, right now there's still savings associated with the TIFIA loan. That is, when we come back to you, as we analyze this internally, that's also part of our analysis. Is if we generally we don't try to time the market, whether we're on the investment side or the bond side, but when a sale is pending, you do look at the market a little bit. And so part of the analysis will be, if we sell bonds earlier and therefore start incurring debt service sooner, how much would interest rates need to rise had we delayed the sale for us to be indifferent? And that type of analysis, historical trends, all of that will go into the analysis, so that when we come back to you with a recommendation, there'll be a basis behind it, and we'll explain that to you.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add that, the Fed's expected to continue to remove policy accommodation, meaning buying fewer treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, and began hiking Fed funds rates. So those are things that are all on our minds. Deb had alluded to, we have a small refinancing opportunity coming up in July. It's a very modest 39 million. And interestingly, with the timing, I mean, we don't typically issue money in advance of that, but Deb was talking about the potential carrying cost of that. But we could align a new money financing with the refinancing and do it, let's say, at the end of March or beginning of April.
So at this point, we don't want to send any indications of what we plan on doing, timing, refundings. At this time, it's all work that we'll be, investing time in. But the update is, because of the loan being in jeopardy, from our perspective, significant jeopardy. And then I'm jumping a little bit to the next item, which is a resolution. We're still asking for the board's permission to continue to pursue the loan. I don't know. I use the expression, we've all heard, it's not over until the fat lady sings. She's not singing yet, but she's warming up. And so we need to continue to pursue this loan until, in fact, we're sure it is not going to close. Now, we're very, very mindful of the costs that we incur during this time period, because we've spent a significant amount of money securing this loan. We don't want to add to those expenses unnecessarily.
So, well, that actually, Deb, that was going to be my next question for you, because I'm assuming, as you said, we've already made an investment in this. Is there, other than staff time, and that's very cost, there's a huge value there. Is there any other additional cost that we're incurring by continuing to pursue this? Or have we already made that investment?
We've already made that investment.
Okay.
If they come back with a particular covenant or something, I don't know what it could be, it's possible we would need bond counsel costs. But at this point in time, the investment has already been made between our bond counsel, our financial advisors. When you secure a TIFIA loan, you have to pay for their financial advisors, their attorneys. We've made a very large investment in this loan.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any members?
Just the last comment by me. That large investment that we made, it was absolutely fully expecting that we would be approved. We've already had a TIFIA loan. We've paid good on the TIFIA loan. We're one of 5 agencies in the entire United States with a AA credit rating. And yet we're sitting here today not being approved by a credit counsel. So it's, the money that we spent to secure this loan was a wise investment on our part. Not a stretch.
Okay. Very good discussion. I'm sorry, Member Carroll.
Deb, Allen, I just want to make sure I'm digesting what I think I'm hearing, and I certainly want to have you lead my thinking here. Am I hearing that the largest possible reason that we couldn't be approved for the loan relates to the pedestrian crossing that we as a board have determined wasn't feasible, that would actually add $60+ million to a project?
Well, what we know is that the loan was stalled And we know that we've been asked questions regarding the board's decision to invest in the I-95 project because of the, better use of funds, the lives that would be saved in relation. And, so we know we've been asked questions regarding the bike ped path. If there is other reasons, we're not aware of them at this point in time. That's all we know at this moment. And so we're being responsive to questions that are asked. Kim has assisted us as well, our principal counsel, addressing the trust agreement. And so to make sure that USDOT understands legally what we're able to do and not able to do as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Carroll and Member Ardinger and Member Rosen. Deb, thank you. I guess we will move on to the next item, number 4. And that is the board resolution, certainly related to item 3, board resolution number 21-06. Alan will discuss that as well. We touched on it already, but please go ahead, Alan.
Great, thank you. Yes, 2106 extends the deadline that was December 31st in 21 to complete the TIFIA financing. So that's essentially the financing to loan closing. So that's the only significant change in the resolution, is just to extend the deadline to December 31st of 22. And with the expected need to draw those funds in January of 23, we would certainly need to make a decision on either the TIFIA loan being approved or alternate financing. So we've, committed to come back to the board and periodically update you on the status of the loan and any further discussions. These resolutions, like all of our financing resolutions, essentially provide delegated authority to the executive director and the CFO to complete the transactions. The only significant provisions in there are limiting the par amount to $210 million, and the loan must close before December 31st of 22. So we're just seeking a recommendation of the Finance Committee to move forward to the full board for approval to continue working on the TIFIA loan process.
Okay. All right. Any other information at this point to share, Alan or Deb, on this matter? Okay.
No, thank you.
Do any members have any questions on this matter? Okay. If not, is there a motion to advance this resolution, this item to the full board for approval?
So moved, Member Carroll.
Okay, thank you, Member Carroll. Is there a second?
Member Ardinger, I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Member Ardinger. Is there any further discussion? Okay, if not, is there a motion to, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Motion carries. Sorry about that. I was a little confused sometimes. Got a lot of paper here, a lot of things to do, and we have a closed session coming up. So on that, I'll thank you. The motion does carry. Thank you, everyone who participated in that. Okay. We've reached the closed session portions of our agenda. The closed session is scheduled for the MDTA Finance Committee members and designated staff. Per the Maryland Open Meetings Act, the MDTA Finance Committee will meet in closed session under the general provisions, articles sections 3-305B, 7, and 8 to receive legal advice and discussion and to discuss potential litigation regarding a contract claim for contract number MA549. Members, is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved. Member Rosen.
Thank you, members. A second?
Member Arndinger, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. For the, we will move into closed session. For those persons on the line, the MDTA Finance Committee will now be hanging up and meeting separately in closed session. As soon as we have completed the closed session, we will call back into the open session meeting to complete the agenda and ratify any actions that might be taken in closed session. We appreciate your patience and ask that you please remain on the line if you desire. Member, please hang up from the open session now. Thank you.